Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CWU Live and a special edition. You will see some different faces with us this week. We've got Kate Hudson, who's our Head of Education, Equality and Development. Good evening, Kate.
Good evening, Chris. Hope you're well.
I'm very well. We've also got Kevin Rowan from the TUC. Good evening, Kevin.
Hi, Chris. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and we're expecting Belle Ribeiro-Addy, who is a Labour MP. So we're going to carry on with the session, and Belle will hopefully join us at some point. You will also see we've got Nicola, our fantastic BSL signer, who's going to be hopefully deciphering the varying accents on the call, as Kevin pointed out just before we went live. Fantastic to see already, by the way, over 500 of you joining us online. That really, really is brilliant. So tonight's session is about the Union Learning Fund and the government's decision to disgracefully cut funding, which leaves both union, but more importantly, you, as trade union members and working class people, are potentially unable to access such brilliant learning that has changed so many lives. So what tonight's session's about is Kate and Kevin are going to set out from a CWU and a TUC perspective, and then Belle from a Labour Party perspective, what the great work that this fund has done over the years, but more importantly tonight, what we're going to do to defend the fund. So it's going to be a really, really good session. We want as many comments from all of you as we possibly can get on tonight, and we want questions from you. And also, what's key, we've got a petition which will flash up on screen shortly. We really need you to sign that petition, because the more people we get on that, the more pressure we get on the government. But that's enough from me as we tick over the 1,000 viewers mark, which is brilliant. I'm going to hand over to Kate Hudson, who is going to set the scene. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Chris. I thought at the beginning of this session it would be good to give an overview, like you said, from a CWU perspective, and what the ULF Fund has done for us, the CWU, since its inception in 1998. So CWU, as with other trade unions, have developed a network of union learning reps, ULRs, on the back of the ULF Fund, who ultimately offer support, advice and promote learning and guidance in the workplace to members and workers. We've developed a network of workplace union learning centres, and since its inception, the ULF Fund has helped thousands of workers return to education, something that, if I'm completely honest, myself being one of those people, never thought I would have the opportunity to have. So each year, around 7,000 workers members have become students in the CWU through the education system, and in fact, it's around 200,000 for the whole of England. The fund supports workplace education and training projects, which are run ultimately in the workplace, in trade union learning centres, in CWU learning centres, and in the communities, and they are basically run by our union learning representatives. In the CWU, roundabout, we have 150 active ULRs at the moment around the country, with 1,150 being trained through the project's lifetime of 22 years. The research that led to the establishment of the ULR role has been replicated in many different reports, identifying the actual importance of the group support and the support that is given by the ULRs, which is face-to-face to workers, frontline workers, up and down the country. And it doesn't just work in England, it works everywhere in this country. And that's an important aspect, when it is only England that is actually our English government that is saying that it is going to pull these ULF funds. So some of the funds that the ULF, hi Belle, just giving a quick hello to Belle. So some of the important projects that the ULF fund help with is obviously the sustainability fund. We have so many learning centres around the country that helps to equip them learning centres, helps to develop about why people want to learn and how different areas and what type of learning they need. There's a number of my team that help support the ULRs out in the field in doing that. We share best practice and development, and we also have e-learning and left click and other opportunities for people to learn when it's easy for them to do so, which is an important aspect of what the ULF project does. So within the CWU, we consistently develop and deliver maths, English, IT skills, health and well-being, mental health awareness training, and so much more. And it's our ULRs who assess people in what they need on a one-to-one basis, which is vital to what they do through that fund. In our last survey of CWU members, we found that most would like to improve their writing skills, They were identified as wanting to know more about computer software, wanting to improve their English skills. And these are vitally important to workers up and down the country in what they need, as in provided education. Our ULRs provide support that is vital to get non-traditional learners back into learning. And like I said, I'm someone who first, when I went into my role as a postman in Rowan Mail, didn't ever think that I would have the opportunity as someone who was now working to step back into education. This is what the ULF Fund provides. I know many of our tutors, many of our ULRs out there left school without any qualifications. Again, I'm one of them people because I never thought education was an option. This fund helps to provide and support the option to better yourself. And it's an absolute disgrace that this Tory government doesn't see that and doesn't recognise it in a time when it's needed now more than ever in England. And I think I'll leave it there for now, Chris.
Thank you, Kate. That's fantastic. And to join you and welcoming Belle to this session tonight as well. Thank you for joining us, Belle. Before we come on to your contribution, though, we're going to hear from Kevin Rowan from the TUC. Kevin, I'll let you set the scene from the TUC's work on this issue, if you like.
Well, I mean, thank you very much, Chris. And just a very hard act to follow Kate, who's outlined some of the, the fantastic reasons why union learning is so important to workers, so important to our workplaces and to the economy. And thank you very much for the opportunity to come and have this conversation with members and reps in your union this evening. I think for us, this is a hugely kind of important issue and hugely important kind of campaign that we've got to fight back. And I think I just want to take a couple of minutes to really compliment Kate's opening remarks there and explain why I think that's the case, why the TUC thinks that's the case. But before I do, Chris, maybe just take 1 second to thank the CWU and all the union learning reps and other reps that are on this course for all of the work that they do, because the fact that we can have this conversation about the good work that we're talking about that's at risk is because of the work that the union learning reps do in the workplace. Those volunteers that give up their time, their energy, and their effort on behalf of their colleagues and comrades in the workplace. And I would say one of the motivations for this campaign is actually a tribute to those learning reps, because if people weren't making a difference, if people weren't doing the job in the workplace, then there'd be nothing for us to fight for. But there's actually so much for us to fight for. And as Kate says, those kind of individual stories of colleagues, members, workers who've for the first time been given the right kind of support so that they can learn to read properly, the right kind of support so that they can work out the maths on their payslip, the right kind of support so that they can access IT skills and digital skills to be able to get on in life in the way that we all have to now. None of us can get by without those kind of digital skills. And it's those learning reps in the workplace that have made that possible for us to talk about, that have made this kind of area of trade union work, an area of union learn funded activity worth fighting for. So a really important thank you to all of those reps on the call. And CWU have been, absolutely integral to the work of the ULF from the start. For over 20 years, CWU were one of the first organisations that we, developed a partnership with around the kind of union work. So as much as anyone about the importance of this area of work and of this fund for us to try and save within the TUC. And as Kate says, for the last 20 years, it's been round about 200,000 workers every single year that have got the benefit of that kind of union support to get into learning and to tackle some of those skills challenges. Over that period, over 2.5 million workers have been able to access learning. And to be absolutely clear, without the Union Learning Fund, they wouldn't have. We've still got a massive skills challenge in this country. We've still got people going to work every day, hiding the fact that they can't get by properly with English and math skills, hiding the fact that they need support for those skills. And it's only unions that are helping them to tackle those kind of skills challenges. And, you know, the evidence speaks for itself. 68% of the people that we help over those years get a qualification for the first time in their lives. And there's some absolutely incredible, heart-wrenching stories of people, you know, reading a poem to their colleagues for the first time ever. It's an incredible contribution. But it's not just about those heart-rending stories. As important as they are, Union Learn, the Union Learning Fund and the work that unions do in this space delivers over £12 back to the economy for every £1 that the government puts into it. You know, this isn't some kind of union bung as it's been described by Gavin Williamson's SPAD. This is a direct contribution to the economy, solving a problem that nobody else has been able to solve. Those huge skills challenges in our economy have been there for generations. It's only the last 20 years that we've been able to tackle them in any significant way, and it's only unions that are able to do that. And this isn't just my opinion. This is what Department for Education officials tell us. This is what Treasury officials tell us. This is what the previous skills minister told us, Anne Milton, who is a Conservative MP. So this isn't some kind of, you know, trade union spin that we're putting on this in order to try and save the money that comes into our trade unions to support those workers. This is what the government's own evidence tells them. So you might ask then, well, why are they cutting it? Well, that's a pretty fair question. And just to say, I like to think I'm a pretty courteous kind of individual. You know, if I'm going to take someone's £12 million off them, I might give them a call to say, the government have been thinking, you know, we've got major priorities, you know, very disappointing news for you, but, you know, next week we're going to announce the end of union learning. Did we get that call? No. Did we get a heads up at all? No. We got an official letter from a director in DFE that said from next year, your money's gone. End of. And that completely in contrast with all of the conversations that we've been having with Department for Education officials. We were planning, with their support, for a 3-year program of skills work with unions, because that's how good we've been. No issue on performance. CWU and all of our unions have been fantastic, delivering the outcomes, as Kate was describing earlier, that benefit union members. So no issue with performance. No, the government might say this is about money, but £12 million is 0.017% of the Department for Education's budget. It's not even a rounding error. So it's not about the money. This isn't about skills needs, because I think, as Kate was saying, we're going to face some pretty significant challenges in the economy moving forward. More workers than ever are going to need to be upskilled. More workers than ever are going to need help with retraining. So a huge demand for the kind of services that only unions can provide for their members. So it's not about need. This isn't about employer opposition. Employers have been coming out of the woodwork in droves in the last week to say, this is a big mistake. How can we help persuade the government to turn them around? From Tesco to Tata Steel, from Aviva to Heathrow, employers are coming out of the woodwork saying, we don't understand why the government's doing this. How can we help? So if it's not about any of those reasons, why is it? And it's the only kind of conclusion I can draw is that it's political vindictiveness by the government. And it's not political vindictiveness that harms trade unions. It's a political vindictiveness that harms the opportunity of 200,000 learners a year to get onto the skills ladder, to get the skills that they need to get on in work. That's who's paying the price for this. So we have to push back, and we have to push back hard. Since we got the letter, we've been trying to get a meeting with Gavin Williamson, the Secretary of State for Education. He hasn't responded positively. We were actually due to meet him at 4:30 today, so I was hoping to bring this meeting some news from conversation with the Secretary of State. About 2 hours before the meeting, he cancelled it and has offered us a meeting in November. Now, read into that what you want. Very disappointing. but we have to push back hard. None of this makes any sense. So there is an ask for everybody on this call to join our campaign. As Chris said, there's a petition there that we want everybody to sign. I think in 2 days, we've got up to about 15,000 on the petition. We need to get that as high as we possibly can to make sure that the government understand how strongly people feel about this decision. And we want everybody to get their employer on board to say, you need to help us reverse this government decision, because it's in your interests to do that as well as ours. I want everybody to write to their MP and say, you need to contact Gavin Williamson and say what a terrible decision this has been. We don't have the control that we would like to get this decision reversed like that, which is what it should be. But we can make it as difficult as we can for this government to follow this decision through. We've got to push back hard. We've got to push back in large numbers. And I really very much value and appreciate the CWU's support in doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. That was fantastic. Lots of positive comments as your contribution went through your contribution then. So thank you for that. Couple of bits of housekeeping. You've seen the petition. We'll stick it up here so you can see it. Please click the link. We took a note of the figure. I think it's 15,200 before we started the show. It's now 15,800. So CWU are doing a great job. We're doing our bit. So please, 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 because we can't have Unite and Unison and GMB showing us up. You know that. We know we're the best. We're not asking Kevin and Belle to comment on that, but we're here tonight to prove that. So get signing. Also, anyone who's watching who may be tuning in for an update on the Royal Mail dispute or BT dispute, we've got loads and loads of that coming later in the week. This is a Pacific session set up for the Union Learning Fund. So without any further ado, whilst you're all piling in to sign that petition, I'm going to introduce Belle Ribeiro-Addy, who's a Labour MP. First of all, thank you for taking the time to join us, Belle. We know how busy you are. Just thought maybe give you a few moments, like Kevin took, just to set out, why union learning is so important and the position of the Labour Party on this. So welcome to the session with CWU members.
No, thank you very much. I'm really, really pleased to speak. But I should ask if you can hear me first, because things keep on breaking in here. You'd be surprised. Fantastic. I'm really, really pleased to be supporting this campaign. As you've heard from Kate and Kevin, the Union Learning Fund has been an absolute success. I couldn't understand why anybody would want to scrap it, right from basic skills to learning those technological skills that we all need to keep up with as we're going through work. It has made a massive difference to people's lives, to the workforce, and so to the economy of this country. So I cannot understand what the government are thinking. They're absolutely disgraceful for even heading down this road. And I have to ask, if anybody might know, how exactly do they propose to plug this massive skills gap? As Kevin was saying, is vindictive. It has to be vindictive. It's yet another ideological cut, like the ideological cuts we've seen over the past decade, which have had no real meaning. It's just about their really backward views when it comes to in particular progressive movements. And I look at how they're spending money now. We are hurtling towards the worst economic recession we have ever seen. And instead of protecting people's lives, in order to protect the economy, what they've been doing is giving billions of pounds to their mates and their party donors to run services such as track and trace and purchase PPE and do all these things that their mates have no idea what they're doing, and they've completely messed things up. So they can waste these billions of pounds handing out these private contracts, but they cannot keep funding the Union Learning Fund, which is absolutely bizarre to me, but just speaks to their values and who they are as a party. And again, I can say again and again, it makes no sense. We heard it's £12 we get out for every £1 we put in. And the strange thing is that yesterday we debated the immigration bill. And one of the points that people are making about keeping people from other countries out of this country is that, we're going to be investing more in our learning. We need to invest more in our skills, etc. And I thought to myself, how is that on the same day that you are proposing to remove this fund? It makes absolutely no sense. We have to stand up against it. We have seen some U-turns in the past. I don't for a moment think that it's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy in any way at all, because we know what they are like when it comes to things that our unions want. But I do believe that we can fight this, and I want to continue to just pay tribute to our union learning reps as a former union rep myself, and you know, give credit to the CWU and all our other trade unions for continuing to fight this. As you've already been asked, please join the campaign, please sign the petition, and if you've signed the petition yourself, get somebody else to sign the petition, and remind them to tell somebody else to sign the petition until we have the numbers that we need. Myself and my other trade union colleagues who are also members of Parliament stand in solidarity with you, and you know, let's see what we can do to turn this around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Belle. And once again, like Kevin and Kate, some really, really positive comments from our members in response to your contribution. So thank you for that. I've got some questions coming in. So I'm going to put one, first of all, to Kate and to Kevin. And it's twofold, really. Jan James says, how will this change, if it goes through, affect ULRs? So maybe I'll ask you to, Kate first, and then Kevin to comment on that. And maybe take that a little bit further and ask how, if it goes through, it will affect those who have been and potentially could be receiving the training, so our members and workers on the front line. To you first, Kate.
Okay, so I always have to remember to unmute myself, because then tea in the background. So how will it affect ULRs? Well, quite simply put, as I've said, there's 3 members of our team in the CWU that help and support our ULRs out in the field with the use of that fund, that help to promote learning opportunities and to help you know, shape existing partnerships and to move forward. That will be a loss. That will be a loss to our ULRs. And let's not, you know, forget the fact as well, we haven't been able to promote training as much with the impact of COVID. You know, a lot of branches are doing what they can and regions doing what they can out there online. There is, simply put, going to be one big education and training backlog when we do start to come out of restrictions. And our ULRs are going to need as much support as possible moving forward. And that's what the ULF fund does provide as part of that role. It will affect, like I said, it will affect upskilling of training centres moving forward. But what we mustn't do as well as trade unions, and we never do, especially on the back of a Tory government announcement, is give up. We have to re-strategise, we have to relook, and we have to find other avenues to make sure that learning, education and training continues in our communities, in our workplaces, and to workers around the country and in England where this funding is going to be pulled. That is going to be more vitally important than ever, and we must make sure as trade unions, under the banner of the TUC and with the support of the Labour Party, we reaffirm, we reevaluate, and we go out there and make sure that this isn't a drop to workers all over the country. I'm going to be quite clear. Will we be able to sustain what we have now? Probably not. But it doesn't mean we should lose everything, and we need to relook and refocus to make sure that we do that.
Thank you, Kate. I should also, before I jump to Kevin, let you know that Belle has been called back to the chamber for an urgent vote. So she hasn't just disappeared and left us. She's going to go, she's going to vote, and hopefully if she has time, she can get back on. But if not, thank you to Belle for an excellent contribution. Kevin, you know, what impact would this change have if the government gets its way?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's an opportunity, really, I think, Chris, to repeat the point, to challenge the government's spin on this. Gavin Williamson Spad, a political advisor, sorry, getting into the jargon, you know, on the Wednesday morning after issuing us a letter on Tuesday, called a journalist in The Sun and said that £12 million that is a union learning fund is a bung for trade unions. That's what he said. Now, it would be interesting if it was, because, you know, we'd no doubt have more unions wanting to affiliate to the TUC, but it isn't a bung to trade unions. It's used entirely to provide resources and support to union learning reps to enable them to do their job. Typically, as Kate was indicating there, it might be to support the establishment of a learning centre. It might be that it provides IT equipment for learners. It might be that it provides some time for a project worker to support those union learning reps. And actually, one of the kind of critical things that the Union Learning Fund, the actual money is used for, is to lever in investment from employers. And CWU have been as good as this as anybody, saying to BT or the Royal Mail or other companies, look, if we can get 25, 30 grand, 40 grand from the ULF, will you match it? And they do. So it's a really good bit of leverage to build learning capacity that then enables those members to take part in those learning activities in the workplace. And again, just following Kate's lead, this year, we were quite late getting notification from the Department for Education about this year's £12 million that we've got. It actually came on the 1st of April, which was a day late, by the way. On the 2nd of April, we were able to launch the Learning at Home initiative, which used a bit of ULF resource to translate some of the kind of, the physical learning materials that people have been engaging in online, recognizing the fact that huge swathes of workers weren't able to get into the workplace for some time, but wanted to continue their learning. So we were able to use a bit of the Learning Fund to build learning materials and learning capacity to enable people to carry on learning. If we didn't have the Union Learning Fund, we couldn't do that. And we couldn't do that with any of the other learning materials and resources, be that learning centres, support for project workers, or anything else. None of this money goes into union surplus. It doesn't. None of it pays for, additional negotiating officers in unions. None of it goes for Chris and his campaigns team resource. It goes to learning. It all goes to learning. And that's what's going to be taken away.
Thank you, Kevin. We could really, really do with some of that money in my department, I can tell you. Anyway, so we've got loads and loads of questions coming in, which is great. We're going to try and obviously keep to our time. Really tons of support. And thank you to everyone who's signing the petition. We keep putting a link up, not to annoy you, but to make sure we get as many of you captured as possible. Also should say that we've just hit the 4,500 mark in terms of people who have tuned in across all of our platforms for the session. So, we put on a lot of different events as a union in lots of industrial, political sessions, and it's just fantastic to see, so many of you tune into the diverse range of sessions that we put on. So please keep coming back and don't underestimate how grateful we are for you for coming and tuning in. A few more questions then. Again, I was going to ask this of Belle, but I'm going to ask it of Kate and Kevin. Is that Rishi Sunak last week, there was a strange image that turned out to be from a Photoshop saying Fatima, who was a ballet dancer, should consider retraining in cyber, I think it was. But Rishi Sunak has been saying, people should get out there and should retrain. I mean, how outrageous is it at the same time as saying that to attack and slash the biggest sort of collective force in training working class people? At the same time the government says that, it's undermining its own words. What would you say to that? Firstly, Kate.
Well, this is in the same couple of weeks that Boris turned around and said that upskilling and reskilling workers on the impact of COVID was going to be a priority of his government. I mean, he doesn't even hold a breath, really, did he, until they made that announcement. Oh, sorry, like Kevin said earlier, they didn't make an announcement. They just slipped it, into a trash newspaper I'm not even going to say the name of. It's as simple. It's a completely let's be honest, this is a complete kick in the teeth for trade unions and what we do, what is vitally important in the community and what is vitally important to our workers, which is education and training. The fact that the government are just so blatantly just ripping away this fund is absolutely ludicrous, especially, I've got to go in on this point again, around the time of COVID. I mean, workers out there, in the breadth of this country, even though we're only talking at the pulling of this fund in England. In fact, I think Wales have reaffirmed this week that they do support the ULF funding and are going to continue to do so. So well done, Wales. But in a time of a crisis, at some point when we start to come out of COVID, even now we're starting to look at it, pulling together as trade unions, as Labour parties, the TUC, we're going to have to rebuild. What part of this government does not see education and training as part of that rebuilding? I really don't get it. It's a simple kick in the teeth. I think it's a quick buck for them, and it's easy for them to have a dig at us while doing it. Am I shocked that they've made this announcement? No, I don't think any Tory government announcement would ever shock me. Am I shocked that they're making this announcement now in the way that we are at the moment with COVID and the impact that has on people being furloughed, redundancies and everything else? Yes, I am. And I'm absolutely disgusted.
Thank you, Kate. Kevin?
There's three kind of factors that workers, learners keep telling us are real barriers to them accessing learning, and this has been consistent certainly all of the time that I've been involved in this agenda, which is 18 years I think now. One is time. People don't have the time to work to learn because they're busy juggling everything else. Our learning reps negotiate time, and it's often matched by an employer, so an hour for you and an hour for me, and people can access learning. The second kind of key factor is money, because traditionally, learning's been something you have to pay for, and the move to FE loans instead of free FE provision hasn't helped with that. And of course, we're at a stage in our kind of experience and knowledge where we've got the lowest levels of participation in learning on record ever. And the third factor is quality advice and guidance. So poor quality advice and guidance tells people who are ballerinas they should become whatever it was, that musicians who play violin should become a professional boxer. Completely unrealistic, unhelpful, the worst quality advice and guidance that anyone could imagine. Where we've got good quality advice and guidance is our union learning reps, because they get the support of professionals in the team that Kate was talking about. Lots of our learning reps are actually trained up to kind of level 5 and above in information, advice and guidance, training that they've got through the Union Learning Fund. And all of the evidence is that the best quality advice and guidance comes from union learning reps, because they know the workplace, they know the person, they know the sector, and they know what opportunities are available. And that, again, is something that is at risk through this. So all of those kind of contributory factors that make this so successful are all of the things that the government talk about being important, but are pulling the rug from underneath. You couldn't make it up. It's like the strangest kind of Orwellian doublespeak about we're investing in skills, but in a way that no one can access them. We're investing in colleges, but nobody's going to go to them because there's no engagement. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And I think you get to the point where you have to stop applying logic, because that's not what's being said to you. That's not what's being demonstrated by the government actions. And if you stop applying logic, then there's another reason they're doing this. And the only reason that I can see is they hate the working class and they hate trade unions. And they're the ones who are going to be the victims of this decision.
Thank you, Kevin. Intermittent plug from me. Please sign the petition. Doing fantastic, and see the numbers ticking up in front of me. I got it on my other screen, so please keep going. 2 more questions for you both. I think this one probably is the $1 million question. Is firstly to Kate and then to Kevin in our respective. Kate from a CWU perspective, Kevin from TUC. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to campaign as a union to save this fund?
Okay, so obviously we've had the petition that's ongoing. What we're going to continue to do, working with comms as we have been, thank you, Chris, and all the team out there for everything you've done, is we're going to keep highlighting big case stories where we've had really good case studies out there and what we're actually doing. I mean, some of the things, I just want to give you a quick brief of just a couple of things that I was looking over today with emails that have been sent through from some of our ULRs out there and in the branch. Wessex South Central work with Southampton College, have a great working partnership with the college, delivering mental health awareness level 2 Feedback from students has been fantastic. And listen to this, the learning that has continued, especially through this pandemic, has been fantastic. With the pandemic, people are restricted to going out and socialising, meaning that they have a lot more spare time. This is great. We've had a big increase in learners. What better way to do that than further knowledge and education? And it's great that people have something to take themselves out of that coronavirus bubble. We are not going to give up on this. This is what this fund does, especially now in the pandemic that we're living through. So we're going to continue with the petitions. We're going to regroup and keep talking to the TUC to put pressure on. We're going to work with Labour MPs. And as much as I don't say it on every campaign, Tory MPs, because I don't believe all of them out there can see why this decision has to be made. And we need their backing to support this as well. And we're going to continue to highlight the campaign, pull together, get more case studies out there, keep it up there, keep getting, we've got an article as well through comms in the Tribune magazine this week around the CWU's perspective and the whole fulling of the ULF funds. And we're going to keep up the pressure. And ultimately, we're not going to give up.
Thank you, Kate. Brilliant. Kevin, there's been some great work from the TUC already this week. We've seen lots of campaign materials, which we're certainly grateful for. How's the next few weeks looking as we up the ante?
Well, I mean, for me, Chris, have been kind of three phases to the campaign. We've tried the very direct approach to government ministers, including the Chancellor, who you would think from his comments has some skin in the game. So we'll continue that political pressure. This week, we've seen lots of employers coming out of the woodwork and saying, this is a mistake. And I think, for the rest of this week and early next week, the more employers we can come out, get, to be vocal and mobilise on this, the better. Because I think, they would expect us to say this is a bad decision. They would expect us to push back on it. I think it's been a shock for them that they've got some of the blue chip employers out there saying, what are you doing? So I think we need to kind of continue pressing, the employer contacts that we've got and the networks that we've got to come out and support our campaign to get the decision reversed. And then exactly as Kate says, really, I mean, if there are 4,500 people on this call, and the chances are some of them are going to be living in constituencies where you've got a Conservative MP who doesn't know about Union Learn, doesn't know how important it is, and doesn't know about the impact that it's made on the workers in their constituency. And I would ask people on this call to contact your MP to say, did you know this is what Union Learn does? Did you know this is what's at stake from the decision that's been made by the Secretary of State? Can you write to him and tell him that it's a stupid decision and he needs to reverse it? Now, one letter might not be enough to persuade him. 300 letters from MPs might be enough to make him think again. So that's our ambition, to try and increase the volume of the campaign, to amplify those key messages, to create that turbulence around Gavin Williamson that makes him go, oh shit, I really need to think again. And that's, we have to do that. We might win, we might not win. I'm not going to make anybody any false promises. But what I will promise is we're going to try bloody hard to make it as uncomfortable as it possibly can be for him not to change this decision. And we need everybody's help with that. Everybody on this call, everybody right across the trade union movement, and all of the employers that we work with.
Thank you, Kevin. That's fantastic. Final shout out from me on the petition. It was at 15,000 we started. It's now at 15,900. So it'll be really, really bad of the union if we didn't get it to 16,000 tonight. So please keep signing. We'll keep sharing it, of course, via our other means as well. So what I'm going to do now to both Kate and to Kevin is give you the chance to just get across any final messages, any key points you want to hammer home for the session tonight, including any thank yous, which of course you'll do naturally. Starting with, if I can come to you first, Kevin, on that for your sort of closing thoughts to the CWU members. Yeah,
well, I mean, genuinely thank you for the opportunity, Chris, to come and talk to so many colleagues in the CWU. And I saw one of my old comrades from the Northeast, Woody, on the chat there. So shout out to Woody while I'm on the call. Otherwise, he'll bear a grudge forever. Oh, there he is. It's really important, I think, to just have this dialogue with people who can make a difference. and that's everybody on this call. So I would, one, urge caution about getting sucked into the battle about union bungs or not. If we make this trade unions versus government, I think we're missing a trick. The real impact is on learners and on workers. So in all our messaging, in all our communications, keep focused on that, because they are the real potential victims here. So keep that focused and make sure that everybody on this call takes at least one action. It could be signing the petition, and that'll be great, but then take another action. Contact your employer, ask them to step up and raise their voice. Then contact your MP, ask them to step up and use their voice. We can't let them get away with this. We can't let them get away with it. And the only way we'll stop them is if everybody takes some action. Thanks very much.
Fantastic, Kevin. Over to you, Kate. Final message from the CWU.
Okay, thank you to Kevin for joining us tonight, and Belle. I know Belle had to go off, which is unfortunate, but I still appreciate taking the time to come on. Look, I'm similar to a point that Kevin made. We're not saying that we are definitely going to get this decision overturned, and I think it would be remiss of us not to agree that even if we could get something, it's still probably going to come with a price. But we have to do what we do best as trade unions, which is to pull together, reevaluate, and work together on trying to achieve getting this decision retracted. What our ULRs do with that ULF fund is priceless. It's priceless to people in the community. It's priceless to workers that never thought they'd ever touch education again. You know, just thinking on some of the, like I said, looking through some stuff from our department today and my team, we've actually had drivers that have been upskilled in raw mail who now earn a better wage through that ULF fund. We have engineers in OpenReach that have been upskilled who now earn a better wage through that ULF fund. What government wouldn't want that for the workers of this country? What government wouldn't want the workers of this country to better themselves? When we promote a new deal for workers as CWU through the TUC over the last couple of years, a new deal for workers has got to include education and training. And even if we don't retract this government decision by March 2021, it doesn't mean we will just sit back and let it happen and we won't continue to campaign. So I thank everyone for signing the petition. I thank everyone for getting involved, and we will continue to do what we do best as a union, and we will fight, and we will continue to do that moving forward. And I thank you all for taking your time out and coming on this evening.
Thank you, Kate. So just some business from me then. I think we should we should thank you, Kate, as well for your time and coming on and spreading the news to our members. It's been fantastically well received. Also to say thank you to Kevin and to Belle, who had to shoot off, but it made a great contribution. So thank you to you both. Thank you to Nicola, who's done a fantastic job getting all of our accents narrowed down and out to you, so as our BSL interpreter. So thank you, Nicola. Also, I think there's a couple of groups of people we should thank. One is our ULRs, who have done a fantastic job for this union over many, many years, and now in a very precious situation, continuing to do so. So thank you to you. Thank you to the members. Seen so many people tonight, which is actually really refreshing and inspiring, realising that the Union Learning Fund exists for the first time and talking about in a chat about how they would like to access it. So shows the importance and the value of it. Three things you can do. Sign the petition. It's just hit 16,000. So we're taking all the credit tonight, Kevin, for the 1,000. And we want you to take that to the other unions and tell them that there's a bar now. 45 minutes, 1,000 signatures. So sign the petition, contact your local MP, as Kevin said, and as Kate said, share all of our content. So please stick with the union, everybody. Stick with the campaign, and good night, and God bless you all. Take care.